Good evening, everyone. 7 people injured in 8 shootings, all in less than 2 weeks, but no arrests made for the shooters.
Investigators say several witnesses have seen what's happened, but no one, not even the victims, will talk about it. They say a 32-year-old man shot Wednesday night on Orange Street is not cooperating. That shooting blocks away from where 3 people got shot nearly 2 weeks ago. But it's not an unfamiliar story.
District Attorney Ben David said uncooperative witnesses forced him to drop murder charges not long ago. Security video here caught several people running away from the scene of a deadly shooting. 1 man died and a woman got hurt in the shooting on South 9th Street 2 years ago. Prosecutors had to drop murder charges against the suspect because the witnesses did not cooperate and the case could not be tried without them. Well, we talked with District Attorney Ben David today about the recent string of violence.
He urges witnesses to come forward even if it's anonymously. Wilmington police say at least 5 of the recent shootings are gang-related. David says anyone who tries to intimidate a witness will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He says even the smallest bit of information can help solve a case.
But just running with that information, who the shooter was, where we might find the weapon. We can then marry that up to the shell casings, the bullets that might be at the scene ballistically, through fingerprints, to conduct a further investigation. There have been many of the biggest cases in this community that have been solved through people coming forward with text-a-tip.
To anonymously text a tip, just send your information to crimes, that's CRIMES, and begin the message with tip 708.
Now, in the midst of all the violence, a local sports legend is calling for an end to the bloodshed. Lenny Simpson and his wife returned to Wilmington several years ago to launch a nonprofit. It helps kids in sports, in academics, and in life. Lenny Simpson is coaching them within 1 block of where 2 of the recent shootings happened. WECT's Anna Phillips visited his historic court today. So how is this affecting his efforts, Anna?
Well, terribly. He's concerned about the safety of kids and parents who come to his property every day, and he's concerned for his neighbors and for the community that he says is the foundation of who he is.
Go, be ready.
In the backyard of the historic Eaton House, tennis balls and life lessons fly.
That's right, that's right.
This is where tennis legend Lenny Simpson got his start. He grew up just feet away from the home of Dr. Hubert Eaton Sr., a prominent African-American physician and civil rights activist. It was here on Dr. Eaton's courts where Simpson learned the fundamentals of tennis. He became the youngest person to win at a U.S. Open at 15. But here in the heart of Wilmington, this is about so much more than the game.
It will serve as a safe haven for young boys and girls 12 to 18 to get the basic fundamentals of tennis, academics, and life skills.
His nonprofit, One Love, will soon be headquartered in the historic house, which has stood as an emblem of civil rights since the 1940s.
Oh, there's been changes, no question about it. But see, now it's time to stop it and break the cycle.
Simpson and his wife will also live here within 1 block of 2 of the 8 shootings in the last 2 weeks.
We have to do something about this. We can no longer lose our kids. We can no longer continue to lose people, period. Lives are too precious for that. This is a moment right now. I think this is a crossroads in this community. It's got to happen. And I'm here to do what I can to make that happen.
Simpson already spends every afternoon here.
Good, excellent hit. It's the best ball you've hit all day.
Coaching kids whose safety he's now concerned about. But he says his faith gives him the armor to do what he's been called to do.
By the grace of God and the protection of God, my wife and I feel very, very safe here.
Helping give a chance for a brighter future to kids who mean everything to him in the place that defines him.
Simpson also said we already know what the problems are and it's time now to find solutions. He feels it is his calling to carry on Dr. Eaton's legacy of civil rights and community activism in his hometown. You can hear his full call to action right now at WECT.com.
Police believe one of the 8 recent shootings was because of a domestic disturbance. It happened this morning on Steamboat Springs Avenue. That's near South Kerr Avenue and Randall Parkway. Witnesses told officers that there was a domestic disturbance in the parking lot. 2 homes and a car were hit by bullets and several shell casings were found at the scene. No one was hurt and no arrests have been made. We'll bring you the latest information on each of these shootings as the investigations continue. Download the WECT News app to get push alerts so you can stay up to date on what's happening in your neighborhood. You can also follow along on air and on WECT.com.
We continue to follow a developing story at this hour. A man wanted across the Carolinas, shot and killed in Wilmington. We know the suspect, Kyle Horton, died after getting shot at Briarcliff Villa Apartments in New Hanover County Tuesday night. We're hearing more 911 calls made by neighbors in the seconds and minutes after the shooting.
I'm sitting here watching TV, and all of a sudden I heard some kind of a crash with something being thrown in the garbage bin, and then I heard probably about a dozen pops, and cops came flying in all over the place.
Sheriff's investigators say they got word Horton was wanted for kidnapping in Charlotte and for a robbery in Myrtle Beach. Deputies saw him turn into the apartment complex and followed him. He pulled the gun on law enforcement officers as they tried to arrest him. We have the details on the kidnapping and robbery charges coming up in just a few moments. First, though, we're going back to the scene at Briarcliff Villas in Wilmington to hear from neighbors about what happened.
As WECT's Emily Featherston reports, many were shocked by what they saw.
Neighbors here at the Briarcliff Apartments were taken by surprise when the area was swarmed by law enforcement officers last night. They say they aren't sure why Kyle Horton, wanted for alleged crimes across 2 states, was even here. Detectives reportedly expected Horton to be armed and dangerous when they attempted to arrest him around 9 o'clock. Several people who live here and around the complex called 911, and they say they heard a loud noise similar to someone throwing something into a dumpster or crashing a car. Then they heard shots, about a dozen of them. Tom Reardon, who was one of those 911 callers, says he walked outside after the gunfire stopped and saw officers giving Horton CPR. Others in the area say they heard the shots from a distance and ran for cover. Reardon says he was impressed with the response of law enforcement.
When you first walk out there, you're just kind of looking around, to see where the crowd is, and there was a good number of them in one general area, by the guy who got shot. But they did a great job.
The sheriff's office has asked the SBI to take over this investigation, and that agency confirmed to us that they are doing so. District Attorney Ben David was also here last night, as were several federal agents. Reporting in New Hanover County, I'm Emily Featherston.
Investigators say Horton tried to rob a woman in Myrtle Beach just 4 hours before he was shot and killed in Wilmington. That victim, Kylie Lewis, says she was sitting in her car at Broadway at the beach when Horton approached her passenger side door. She says it was unlocked at the time. Horton opened it, pointed a gun at her, and began looking through her belongings for money. Lewis says she insisted that she was broke and told him that she has a 5-year-old daughter. Before he got out of her car, he put his hands on her shoulder, she says, and said, "Lock your doors. Don't let this happen to you again." Lewis was not hurt, but says she was shaken up. She says she doesn't know exactly what Horton took. Now, we're also hearing from the woman Horton allegedly kidnapped in Charlotte on Friday.
Cameron Downing Brown says she made up a story saying she was pregnant and needed to use the restroom, and that's how she got away from him. Her plan worked. Horton let her go at a gas station in South Carolina. Alex Shabbat spoke to the victim about the terrifying ordeal.
When the unexpected happened in this shopping center,
a nice area,
she told her kidnapper she was expecting.
I lied and told him that I was pregnant.
It all started just a short time earlier, around 3:30 on Friday afternoon. Cameron Downing Brown leaving lunch with her mother and grandmother.
It was raining, so I didn't want my grandma to have to walk through the parking lot.
So she went to get her SUV to pick up her grandmother, and that's when the armed suspect approached.
And then as I was getting in the car, someone came up with a gun and said, slide over in the passenger seat.
That began the horrifying journey.
But he said that we were going to go to South Carolina.
His problem, though, he didn't know how to get there.
He asked me for directions. He didn't know how to get to South Carolina. So I told him to take Providence Road and get on 45 South.
After watching her share of true crime shows, this 30-year-old woman says she knew she had to come up with a plan.
I was like, I'm not dying like this.
In the meantime, though, she played along, trying to make small talk.
I asked him what he did. He said he used to be a cook. I was trying to just keep the conversation going, not anger him.
But she made a desperate attempt to get free.
I was pregnant, and then I had to use the restroom.
And it worked. She says she was able to get him to pull into a gas station off of I-77 in York County, where he followed her in.
He said, don't try to tell anyone I have the gun in my pocket.
Once inside, she says she kept thinking about those detective shows again.
They said, if you get that opportunity on the shows, if you get that opportunity, don't give it up, don't get back in the car. I told him that I was bleeding and I thought something was wrong with my baby.
She says he agreed to take her SUV and leave, but not before demanding her driver's license and making a terrifying threat.
He said, now I have your address. If you call the police, I'll come to your house and kill you and your husband.
But in the end, it was the suspect who met that fate.
Involving another robbery, from what I understand, and he was ultimately shot and killed.
And I'm thankful that he let me go and that I was able to come home and be with my family.
When Downing Brown got asked about Horton being shot and killed in New Hanover County, she said, it's tragic whenever someone dies, but she added, he did it to himself. Now, we alerted you first to the breaking news update with a push alert sent straight to your phone. Get the WECT News app, sign up for breaking news alerts and know what's going on, even when you're away from your TV. Right now, you can see all the latest information we have on this officer-involved shooting. It's inside this story on WECT.com.